33 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's probably gonna get 30 degrees tonight. So gotta watch out for slipping.
Speaking of slipping, what happened to that poor car?
I don't know, it's a lot. I've been seeing that a lot.
Watch out for that to the left. Watch Amber Alert's gonna go off in 2 minutes.
I know, usually Amber Alert, it's usually custody battles, what it really is. It's like, why do we have to participate with people's divorce court? It should just come up divorce court. This is the issue. What?
It's gotta be clean.
Note to screenplay. It's 4:47 in the PM, Pacific Meridian. It is January 28, 2023. Possible movie about Linda. Description of lady. 40 years old. She's looking for the new wine. The material world doesn't really pertain to her. Not really. When I first met her, she had dorky glasses that were taped together with blue electric tape. She shook my hand like this because of COVID. It's kind of like an elbow tap. We met during the height of COVID. The very height. It's in my book, Chin, under Ash Cole. And the day we met, we went to Arby's parking lot. And she bought me slingers. They're like an Arby's sandwich. And we went to the nearby public pool where you swim. But we didn't go swimming. She was wearing Nike tennis shoes. I was wearing New Balance tennis shoes. And we had normal clothes on pretty much. I found out pretty quick that she was a Smashing Pumpkins fan. And then when we walked back, we walked by a car wash. And a boy had approached us with a ceramic pumpkin. True story. And he opened the top of the pumpkin and removed a red sash. 2 of them. He didn't ask for payment, but he wanted to give it to us. And that day when we left from the car wash, we were both wearing a red sash that went around our wrist. Don't know who the young boy was, but he was at a car wash and he had a ceramic pumpkin that had an opening that opened, and he pulled out this red sash. Anyway, that's a description of the character of Linda. Well, I'll probably call her Lynn. I also have a secret post-apocalyptic movie I'm working on in note form, and I'm not going to tell you about, because I'm only going to write it, and then I'm going to publish it, and I don't care if they turn it into a movie or not. But that one is probably going to be in screenplay form, but it is in notes now. A lot of notes on it. I got a lot of notes. It'll be a lot of fun. The idea behind that one is to have a lot of fun. But it pertains. I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm keeping it secret. You have to read it. I'm not going to tell you about it. That's the one I'm not going to tell you about. But other than what I've told you, I'm not even going to tell you the title of it. So I'm keeping that one completely quiet. It's kind of a zombie thing, but not really. It kind of is, but you never see the zombies. But you hear them at night. And I'll tell you one last clue. It's got robot cars in it. Robot cars are in it. Just like we're going to have robot cars one day. And that's going to be a weird world. If you came back 20, 30, or 40 years from now, and there were nothing but robot cars, it'd be very, very weird. Some say it'll happen, some say no, because people love to drive. People do love to drive. but we don't know for sure. We'll have to find out. It might happen on a certain scale, but there'll always be the driver. All right, we're going to Owenwood Drive, right in TCU area. Mostly heart surgeons and TCU professors probably live over here. Past a bunch of those gymnasium toys for kids out front. 3 or 4 houses had them. Every other house has a basketball court. Not too bad though, you know, for a little house like that. If you ended up with something like that, not a bad score, you know. There's a really nice one right here. It's got a little basketball court right there. Right earshot of TCU. There's another little swing set thing kids can bounce on and stuff. It's called Owenwood. These are kind of nice little houses too, right here. That's the one where they're getting their nicotine fix. All right, we're gonna pick up some pho and drop that pho at your door. Anyway, I watched like half of Some Like It Hot. Really liked it. Billy Wilder was a musician, and he was also a great artist. He was a great magician. That's what I meant to say, a magician. He was a magician behind the camera and did know something about music, because they did a lot of studio recordings of Marilyn Monroe singing and then brought it in, you know, to the actual production. And of course, Jack Lemmon is great, and so is Tony Curtis. You can't even really recognize them, really. I mean, it's amazing. They had to dress up and drag to avoid getting killed by these gangsters and stuff. It's kind of sci-fi. It's not sci-fi. It's not like that kind of thing. But it's what is screwball comedy, coming off a screwball comedy kind of style. Marilyn Monroe was at the peak of her career. I'm not making any comments or anything, but she wasn't the skinniest, you know, model movie star. She really wasn't. She was voluptuous, you know. She had some meat on her bones, but she kind of reminded me of what, like, today, you know, like a soccer mom would look like or something. You know, you don't see sex symbol movie stars look that way. They're usually super skinny, you know, and a little bit muscle tone. To me, she just looked like a normal gal with, you know, beautiful hair, beautiful eyebrows, beautiful eyes. I mean, when you really look at her, you know, back then she was a major sex symbol. You know, she was a bombshell. But they didn't really portray her, or Billy Wilder didn't really portray her like that. But she was portrayed kind of dorky, you know, kind of a nerdy person. She was, you know, she was an alcoholic, and I don't know about her herself. I know she had a problem with pills, but she was playing like an alcoholic, which to a certain degree it was done. You know, Shelley Winters was a big acting critic, so it was done in a very slight way, you know. And that's what I liked about it. I liked her performance. And in some ways I say that she's just as good as Shelley Winters, you know. But Shelley Winters was her roommate and was an Oscar award-winning actress and had worked with Marilyn Monroe and was critical about her acting. She was on the Actors Studio, but she was also critical of Madonna's acting too. I don't think she was critical of Marilyn Monroe, but I think she knew that Marilyn Monroe needed work. And she had to go to the Actors Studio and kind of tear down the facade that she had created, almost like this high-pitched, oh, you know, they're talking, oh, Mr. President, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'll talk to you about it. From what I've read about Marilyn Monroe, that the Actors Studio had her do was drop her voice, meaning drop her high-pitched, affected voice. So she was kind of talking like this and did a lot. They said, get that out of your system. Because she did that to make money, and a lot of the producers liked it. I didn't think it was that way in Some Like It Hot. I thought she was more close to who she really was. Another thing they did is they had her, take off all her makeup, because she wore quite a bit. And they say, they break people down, and what they really do is they find a neutral zone so that you can find the personality of who you are and get rid of all the quirks and things. If you had any kind of, I was saying the other word the other day, that the vernacular on it, the quirkiness, the effectiveness, of, who you are trying to portray. There's an effectiveness kind of thing where you put on an effect. I can't think of the word they use for Eleonora Duse. She had none. She was bare bones who she was. She wasn't anything special. The American actor kind of is, in a way, when they stand up against the best, they're just who they are, and that's what makes them powerful. Their weakness, you could say, makes them powerful, or you could just say the fact that they're not trying to be something great makes them, in their performance, it makes them powerful. All the mistakes are there to a certain degree. They do have to change if they're playing something with an accent, or if they're playing like a supernatural character. There can be some change to a certain degree, but their personage will always be there. And that's what they were shooting for Marilyn Monroe when they were there training her. They were trying to take down all the facade. I guess the word facade is better understood. To take down the facade and just be yourself, rather than try to put on something that you're not. Looks like there might be like a structure fire or something like that. Structure fire and something else big time. But they do that. I'm not saying that they're right. I'm not saying that the Actors Studio is right for being critical, because there was nothing wrong with what Marilyn Monroe tried to do when she created the characters that she did create. There was nothing wrong with it. I'm not criticizing her original performance, but she needed to learn to do both, to play who she was, and then also to play these bimbo type of characters that are bigger than life, So both aspects of it, I think, is right. If you got a clown that we came into the Actors Studio and wanted to be a serious actor, they would want them to first get rid of their clown makeup and take off their wig and say, okay, let's start from first who you are. Then if you have to play a clown, then we'll talk about the clown, But it always goes back to who you are anyway. You can't hide who you are ultimately. I didn't think that she did that in Some Like It Hot completely. I think there was some of her there. And I think she was a marvelous actress physically. But going back to Shelley Duvall, what I really meant to say was Shelley Duvall was actually critical of Madonna's acting. And I think Madonna is great too. She was true to, I think, who she was. And a lot of the few films, she did not many films. Madonna hasn't done a whole lot. She's like 64 years old right now. But she would have probably got the same kind of thing, probably a little bit. But she wasn't as affected as Marilyn Monroe. I think Madonna was always closer to who she really was. Marilyn Monroe was that way because the times expected the performer to be that way. And look, if you watch Some Like It Hot, you can see the stylized acting. It's not like a comedy would be today. This was right during when Marlon Brando was becoming mega famous, and Marlon Brando had already become pretty much famous in the 50s. This was 1959 when Some Like It Hot was released. I check it out. I recommend it for everyone to watch. If you ever want to watch a really great movie, black and white, Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, Marilyn Monroe, Billy Wilder. I'm going to watch the rest of it. I think it's pretty fun. There's fun little moments in it. And Jack Lemmon, he's like one of my favorites. pizza. The lady was getting pieces of pizza. She happened to be from Brooklyn. She was in there getting a slice. I told her about what happened to me in Brooklyn when they got a hold of my old school ATM card. She's laughing about it. But back then they couldn't get the Visa MasterCard. Now that thing's on every single ATM card. The banks should, if the banks are geniuses, they should go back to allowing you to have the ATM card without the Visa and MasterCard logo on it, where you have to have the PIN number to get the money. But because of currency flow, they probably want to do it the other way. Back then, if you got a hold of someone's ATM card, you couldn't do anything with it. It's not even called an ATM card anymore. I think you can still request what's known as just an ATM card, but you know, if you lose something, then you better pick up the phone and call. But they can do those things now where they freeze the card, and that helps, because then if you find it again, you can unfreeze it and keep all your stuff the same. I got a pepperoni pizza from, it's called City Slice Pizza. I did a vlog on it. The guy's from New York, but he sounds European, don't they all? The lady that was buying from the pizza, she was from Brooklyn. I told her I lived in Brooklyn for 2 weeks. Then I lived in Manhattan for about 9 months. Thing's greasy, just like New York. Look at that. How they do that, I don't know. I mean, this is what a New York pizza looks like. It does that. You can swing it like that. If you can't swing it like that, it doesn't have grease on it, then they're lying. It's not New York. But it is New York. The style of it is New York, but it's sold in Texas, right here at a place called the square is called Chapel Hill Square. It's right next to a big church called I call it the Lena Pope Home Church, but it has a different name, Myers or something like that. And then it's in where I'm picking up is at Pho, or they call it Foo. Actually, it's called Pho. It's Pho, Noodle, and Grill. Some call it Pho, some call it Foo, but it's actually pronounced Pho. Pho, Noodle, and Grill. I think I slightly burnt my lip right here on the pizza. But it's good. It's good pizza. Here's a telling of it. Just like New York. One of those lovers of New York. I know New York loves me too. New York has the best pizza in the world. Pretty dang good coffee. But one thing that they really, really have that's very, very good, New York City. B-R-E-A-D. It's called bread. Their bread, I don't know how they do it. It's secret, some kind of secret ingredient. All we have down here is Mrs. Bear's bread, which is pretty good for sandwiches. But all their bread, you go to their restaurants, you eat their bread, best stuff in the world. Another thing New York has, great libraries and great bookstores. I don't know if they still have all the old bookstores. I'm sure they do. They have one bookstore over there off of the Village, south of Houston, called the Strand. Great stuff, great knowledge, great place to go to school, but not a great place for the lighthearted, because anything can happen in what's called a New York Minute. And that was the day of 9/11, September 11th, 2001. That happened in what's called a New York Minute. That New York Minute will always be there. But there's also a city, it is a city. It's a city that never sleeps. Good pizza, though. And also another thing, one last thing. If you're an actor and you have not been to New York City, go immediately and see their plays, especially off-Broadway. Their off-Broadway circuit is the best in the world. They're better than England, the United Kingdom, anywhere. New York has the best theater by far. They really work hard at it. This is like a lifelong thing, and they've been the greatest too. They became the greatest when Russia came there in the early 30s, 1930s or so, with a group called the Moscow Art Theater under the direction of Stanislavski. He brought in what was known as realistic acting, and then we took from that, and that's how we invented Brando, and eventually the method. But the actor studio usually, what they usually try to do is mostly I think they try to experiment. They experiment with the whole idea of acting, and to define the actor and to refine what he is, and to help them explore just acting, you know. And the direction's good too, but it's not Hollywood. It's not Hollywood. Hollywood's a different story. That's where all the money comes from, or at least all the publicity. At least I say all the publicity usually comes from there, right? Check out New York if you can. Just look it up online. If you can't go there and you're an actor, just look it up online. Just go to, if you want to see what the city's like, go to James and Carla. They have a dog, and they're on YouTube. It's called James and Carla. It's the one where they have that little dog, and they're moving the dog around, and they're pretty cool. They show the city. She's a professional photographer. She'll show you what the city's a lot, you know, what it's like, and why actors that are New York actors, why they're so dang good. But check it out. And also another thing, if you do go to New York to see a play, be careful, because live theater is not the same as movies. A live theater show is not the same. It's not the same. It's very different. You're really seeing those actors, and at times you can even smell them. That's that one on. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, it's this one. Okay, now we're good. That old lady was like, I didn't order any food. I had to run it next door. I saw the 4 as a 0. I was looking at it too quick. They got to the right one though. Whew. And like I always say, an imitation of Willie Nelson when he had his first concert, and he got the nickname Red. You know anything about Willie Nelson? This is what he looked like the first time he ever sang before public or church. He looked like that. And they called him Red. He's plugging up a nosebleed as he was singing. They say the kids' watermill is bigger than the one at McDonald's.